Hey y'all, this is the Back Porch Podcast with Big Red
and Pastor Shay.
Let's get to it.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you could make it. All right, everybody, welcome to the Back Porch. We got some great guests tonight. Some pillars of the community. We got Mr. Richard Whitehurst and Miss Sue Lynn Whitehurst. How you doing?
Good.
Glad to be here.
How you doing? You can shake their hands if you want. So when y'all were coming up, did you feel like you were getting into one of them scary movies?
The boonies out here.
With the sun setting, it is a little discerning. You know, those curves. Y'all have turns in the curve, and it says, okay, turn left right here, and it's right in the middle of the curve, and I'm like, okay, let's slow up.
If Richard wouldn't have came out there to find you, would you have been able to find this place?
I would have.
No. I can tell you right now.
Little faith. I probably would have got the turn. I don't know that I would have known to come back as far. So.
Well, everybody don't know this, but the people that don't know have missed it. We just had a great sing service at our church last week. I don't know what just failed.
Keep rolling, bro.
We just had a great sing service. Wasn't it last week? When King's Grace came to our church last week?
Was it last Sunday?
No, I think it was the Sunday prior, wasn't it? Was it Sunday morning?
No, Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Last Sunday night.
Was it?
I think so.
Y'all's gospel group came, and I'm gonna tell you what. I just want to get this off my heart. I love the new guy.
Yes, Andy's great. He sure is.
What's his full name?
His name's Andy Collison. He actually had a group called the Collisons for about 12 years. His two daughters, Andrea and Emmy. So they were little girls actually when they started, and they sort of grew up singing gospel music with their daddy. And they did a very good job. And
They're talented, both.
Very
They are
talented.
very talented.
Well, I've always, let me turn this up just a touch. I've always heard about the Collisons, but when I started hanging out with Mark, I started getting into gospel music, and he had said stuff about the Collisons, but I didn't know that until he talked to me after the service, and I was super impressed. Y'all did a great job. Y'all always do a good job.
I appreciate that.
And I ain't just saying this because you're here, because when Mark Young came, we were coming off of, what was it, wasn't it the Christmas, Dad had the Christmas singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Mark, I said, man, Richard, he can lay it down. I mean, I enjoy it. I really appreciate when y'all come and play and sing. And we had a great service.
We
Yeah,
did.
it was fun.
We
It
did.
was a great service.
I think Andy did a good job for his first time out. With us, I mean, you know. So.
Well, Bam Bam, so we can't say Mark because y'all got two Marks for King's Grace.
Well, we call our piano player Spanky, and our bass player is Bam Bam.
Yeah,
That's how we kind of differentiate it.
yeah. Well, Bam Bam was telling me after it was over, I was like, man, that dude does good. You know, I really enjoyed it. And he was like, this is the first time we've really done anything.
Well, he brings a different element. His voice is entirely different from Dolan's. And, I mean, of course, Dolan was there for how many years?
22 years.
22 years. Dolan did excellent. And we got to run the roads with Dolan's time, too. But I think Andy brings something different, completely different. But he's got a lot of character in his voice, and I enjoyed it.
You know what I really like? You know, a lot of people's got the problem with a hat.
Mm-hmm.
I love how he sung the whole night with a hat on. I was like, that's cool. That is cool.
Well, outside of a regular hat. I mean, what is those things called?
It's a Bill Cosby
Like
hat.
a
The derby hat or something?
Or something.
I'm not sure.
Golfers.
I actually wore one of those in high school.
Yeah, I got a couple of them.
And when y'all sing that one song, which we're gonna get in all this is just stuff that's right on top of my head. That one song that y'all sing about Mama's rocking chair.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've heard both of y'all give a testimony to it. I heard Spanky do it the other night, but the first time I heard that song, you gave a testimony about you growing up
That's right.
at Mama's rocking chair. And I'm gonna tell you what, there's two songs. So I'm a little late into gospel music, going on probably 7-8 years now, where I've been trying to catch up with Southern gospel, and there's still songs that I don't know. But y'all first sung the song when y'all were doing y'all's anniversary, the anniversary night. When y'all sung that song where a pastor unspoken request. I had never heard that song. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a crybaby, but when y'all started singing that song, I started crying during y'all's anniversary night.
Well, you know, that was kind of a neat song. It's turned out to be a good song for us, but that's an accidental song. We have some good friends, the Taylors. You know, the Taylors comes with a lot of our singings. And their daughter worked with me at Onwassa for many years, and she's still working there. And we were asked to sing at their 50th anniversary sing. And she said, Daddy wants this song. If you can sing this song at the anniversary sing. And she brought me this song, and that's exactly how we started singing that. And that was probably, gosh, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe longer than that. So it was kind of an accident. We didn't go seeking it; it found us.
Okay.
And it's popular now.
Yeah.
Big Kurt, he loves that song.
Loves
He sings it
Yeah.
at our church. Whenever he gets a chance,
Yeah.
he's going to sing it.
And I like what y'all did at the cancer benefit that we were at the other night, where y'all called Kurt up there to sing it with you, and that tickled him more than anybody.
Yeah,
But
he's been a good friend. He really has.
hey, he's a good friend of ours. So it's that one. I keep missing this up. Unspoken requests. And that rocking chair song, I've never heard neither one of those before, and y'all were the first ones that sung both of them for me. So now I've heard that the first people you hear singing something, that's going to be your favorite. That's what I've always heard. So
Well, I tell you, I've been around gospel music almost 40 years, and I had never heard either one of them either.
Yeah.
So you'll never hear them all, brother. I tell you that. There's some good ones out there.
There's some good ones out there. Some I haven't. I've been listening to gospel music since the early days of the Boys from Bethlehem, and that was in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still songs I'm learning, finding out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we sang the song that Andy sang, that Dolan used to sing, Rise Again.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I remember hearing the boys sing that song back in the 70s, and they could really sing it, and that's where I didn't find that song. I remembered it, and I went seeking that song, and it's been a really good song for us.
I've gotten to where whenever I go to antique places and stuff, I'm always looking for Boys of Bethlehem albums now. Out in the wild. They're not the easiest to find, but I have found two so far.
I've got a collection of them. They had a reunion sing a couple years back, and they had a bunch of Boys from Bethlehem's records for sale, and I bought a bunch of them. So I got a lot of those. I got to find me a record player now.
I got one.
Well, about the first Southern gospel group that I ever started following was like the Glory Land Quartet. Do y'all remember them?
Oh yeah, we did a lot of dates with those.
Yeah,
Those guys.
they were the first ones that I ever went to church and really remembered listening to, and I thought they were special. I mean, I thought they were good. They didn't have a live band or nothing when I first heard them, but you remember the Glory Land Quartet?
Derek Barbie, Scott Peniel, Chris
Yeah.
Jarman, and Mitch Johnson.
Yeah.
Yep.
But well, let's get to this. We got some questions. So y'all been together for 34 years, happily. Never no rocking stuff. Now I worked for Richard at one time.
Yeah.
I know Richard can get you.
Yeah. Well, I think, every marriage you learn to navigate each other. We're polar opposites. We
That is
really
true.
are.
In what way? Like,
Well, you worked for Richard, so you know he's a little OCD. He's a perfectionist. He can have a quick temper, and I'm very laid back. Very laid back. And nothing just really phases me a whole lot. So we have had to really learn to temper that together, because I drive him crazy, but he says I'm his kind of crazy, and same thing. And we've just learned to navigate those waters.
We've actually known each other since we were teenagers.
Yeah,
So
sure
we
do.
just didn't get together until years later.
me and my wife we're the same way except reverse. Like you seem like a social butterfly,
She is.
and that's kind of like where I'm at. Like I can talk to a stump if it'll just give me any kind of acknowledgement.
Oh, well, Stacy's gotten better at that, especially at church. But she is not a social butterfly.
Well, we're about to test out how good she is as a social butterfly.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to the manager's meeting with me in Florida. Let's see how she talks to people.
Look, she can stop at every tree on the way home and have a good conversation.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the way she
My
talks.
daddy
She's
said I
just-
can start a conversation with a light post. I do. And I know this is one of the areas that you're going to get on, but when I used to have kids transfer into high school, I would always say, whatever class or lunch period you have, look for the person that smiles the biggest at you, because they're going to be the most welcoming.
Yes.
Enjoy them.
And I'll tell you this, John Mark can attest to this. Mark's our MC. I used to be the MC before Mark came along. But But if we let Sue Lynn be the MC, we'd probably get 2 songs sung the whole night.
Yeah, they ration my mic.
She's so good at it, though. And whenever she's introducing a song and she really is feeling it, man, it's good. Just let her go. Let her. I've been behind her whenever the spirit's rolling really good and she gets to talking. I'm like, we don't need to play. Let her go. Let her go.
I remember the first time I ever met you. I'd known your husband. The first time I ever met you was when y'all did that sing at the Free Will Chapel. And that was the first time I ever pulled my harmonica out in front of a bunch of people.
That's right.
And y'all let me play Amazing Grace and so.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember they had that pink ribbon up there. Spanky said, "We've got this pink ribbon because of Miss Sue Lynn."
Yep.
And we're going to get in that. But from there on, I followed a lot with you and listened to you. I've listened to you a lot. And I can tell sometimes when y'all were singing, you are the testimony in that group. Am I right?
I will agree she is.
And like everybody in that group will get spiritual. Now, Bam Bam will sit there with his bass and he probably won't talk much.
Well,
But
you better watch him. He'll shed a tear too.
I'm not talking about shedding tears. I'm talking about getting vocal and wanting to, like, you know, when y'all were playing and when y'all were performing, you know, I've heard Richard do a testimony. I've heard you do a testimony, and it's a sweet thing, you know, knowing these people ain't just here trying to get their name out there. That's the feeling I always get when y'all show up, is that y'all are really trying to spread the gospel.
If you're not doing it for that, you're not doing it for the right reason.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a song can speak as powerful as a sermon, depending where you are in that season of your life.
Yes.
You may turn off words, but there's something about rhythm and music that sometimes can penetrate the hardest soul to prepare you to hear the word.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we try to pick songs where the lyrics mean something.
Mhm.
You know, we could easily sing any kind of music out there if we wanted to, but we've always been gospel singers, and we pick songs that have the lyrics that mean something.
Yeah.
And if they don't speak to me, it's not going to speak to anybody else out there.
Amen.
So it's got to speak to me first. You know.
And I believe some new Christian music is lacking, like the basis of that right there, and very repetitive.
Yes.
And I mean, not talking about. I mean, newer contemporary stuff definitely follows that, but it's hard to beat the old Southern gospel music because we're going back to the well. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd love to ask y'all, what do y'all think about contemporary music? If y'all don't mind.
Well, I will tell you, this is where polar opposites come in again, because, you know, Richard, he can listen to all genres, but his absolute favorite is, you know, Southern gospel. He is not a big contemporary fan. He can tolerate some. If McKay Love is on in my car, if he has to drive my car, it's flipped.
I am the same way.
Yeah, but for me, I like Southern gospel. I sing Southern gospel, but there are some contemporary songs that really speak to me, that I really enjoy listening to. So we're kind of...
There's a few contemporary songs I
Yeah.
like, and I'm not speaking, derogatory about contemporary, because to each his style.
Yeah, that's
long as the words are scripture, they're scripturally based. I tend to, to be quite honest with you, I can't sing contemporary that well.
That's hard for me to imagine.
And there's some songs I can sing, but I don't sing a lot of them. But my absolute favorite is not because I could just sing them, each song tells a story, and that's the way I like it. I just like a song to tell a story, like Unspoken Request.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually a story from the first word to the end.
Yeah.
So and I'm not against
When y'all first sung
Christian
Unspoken,
styles. It's just my favorite is Southern Gospel.
when y'all first sung Unspoken Request, and I was sitting there because y'all were at the Triune Church, and y'all got a huge auditorium.
We do.
And me and Randy were sitting in the very back, and it was full. I mean, it was full. And when y'all sung that song, I remember you had me from the first word. And, like, I could just envision my time being in that situation. And then, as the song progresses, I can envision my time as the preacher saying the same thing. So it did something different with me, but it's special. But as far as contemporary music, I started off, because when I started off preaching, all we did was hymn books. We did hymn books, and we had some Southern gospel, and that's what I like, because we got this loud banjo, We got a piano that's just, Kathy can beat that piano. And
we got a Kingsman band.
we got,
thing going on.
so,
I like that.
so that's what I was surrounded by, and that's what I was used to. So there you go. That's what I like. I stayed with Mark. We stayed out of town for 7 years straight. So you know, if we were going anywhere, we were listening to some King's Grace or Moretti's. He had Moretti CDs.
Yeah. If Bam like me, if he's listening to music, it's going to be on the Southern Gospel
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then, you know, we started getting a little bit of contemporary music in our church, and like I had always said, I'm not a contemporary music guy. And then we started singing some songs. I was like, I like that song, and it took Stacy to tell me. After about a year, we were singing it. She's like, that's contemporary,
Right.
and I was like, that song that them kids sing. Let me tell you about my Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
If that song don't get in your heart, I don't know what. So I'm a full-on Southern gospel listener. It feels like we're talking about denominations at church. I'm a Southern but I'm a Southern gospel guy, and I can put some contemporary in the middle. You know, some of it, I don't like that 7-11 stuff where they say 7 lines 11 or 7 words 11 times.
That's more on the praise and worship side, I think.
It really is.
But our church is unique because of the fact that, and like I said, there's some contemporary I really like. Just because I lean toward the Southern Gospel. Our church band is really talented band. We're blessed to have the members that are in there. John Mark's familiar with one of the players, and but they do a mixture of contemporary Southern Gospel, and I think it's a good mixture.
Yeah.
And a lot of the contemporary songs they do, I like. So because they do them in a way where it sounds, you can actually take some contemporary songs and make them sound a little Southern. You know, and that's what they do. And but
They're just good old country boys up there with their instruments.
we got country boys and one country
Yeah,
girl.
one country girl.
And but they do an outstanding job
Oh, man.
of leading the worship in music.
Yeah.
I have found that contemporary lead male singers tend to have more of like a graspy approach to their songs. So I find that I can see where it would be hard because you have clarity in your voice, and I sing one contemporary song in our service. "Oh, Come to the Altar."
Oh, man.
That's pretty.
I do that one. I love that song as far as contemporary Christian goes. I love doing that one, so I do it. It's the only one I feel like I can do. The rest of it has a different modern approach, and I can't. Whenever all you listen to your entire life from the time I could walk was the Happy Goodmans, the Kingsman Quartet, the Cathedrals. That's what I felt like a voice was supposed to sound like. So whenever I started singing tenor, I wanted to sound like Vestal. That's who I wanted to sound like. And until puberty hit, I was pretty good. And after that,
He's
it went
still
downhill from
been
there.
hollering.
But I mean, I guess I'm on both sides of it. I'll always be the Southern Gospel guy, though.
Yeah.
Forever.
And one thing I won't do, I won't badmouth contemporary, even praise and worship. I'm not gonna go into a church and badmouth them if they're doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's what they. As long as somebody's being blessed.
If it's working,
I'm not gonna. I've never
Yeah.
done that to any church, and
right?
and I won't never do it. I don't, so.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to find out because that was my whole life through gospel music. Was I thought that this was the only kind, and like I think people puts walls up when they do stuff like that. I know 100% I had, but then when we started singing that at church, and I was like, man, that's nice. What page is that in the blue book? She's like, that ain't in the blue book. We printed that off. We got it off of K-Love.
Look,
I was like,
hymn songs out of the hymn book is not Southern Gospel.
nah.
Okay, so if a song itself touches somebody, no matter whether it's contemporary, praise and worship, a hymn, she's a church pianist for almost 30 years at our old church we used to go to. If a song touches somebody, that's the most important thing about it. That's the main thing.
I've learned at church, if you're doing it for the right reasons, and y'all might agree with me, you might think I'm a little off on this, but if you're doing what you feel led to do, and I mean I've learned this every Sunday. Like me being a preacher, I thought yesterday or Sunday I bombed a sermon, and then a guy came over here today and said, man, I'm gonna tell you something, that sermon was for me. He was like, that sermon hit me. And so, I think that the Lord puts us in a spot, and He puts it on our heart what to do. He puts it on our heart what to sing. Y'all got a lot of preparing y'all got to do before y'all go sing, y'all practice these songs, and thinking about the providence of God that He's doing all this through us. And I'm gonna put King's Grace here, just say for one person. You know what I mean? And then sometimes you might be like me when you get done preaching, be like, I bombed that, but that one person comes up and says, it was for me. That makes it all worthwhile. All the hours you put in, studying for a sermon, or all the hours you put in for singing. We have called singing groups before to come, because we have every third Sunday night's a singing night for us. We've called groups before and they gave us a number that they were like, well, you get this much money and we'll come. Y'all have never done that.
No.
Never done that.
Well, I will say now, if we have to go like 7-8 hours or something like that, we may say this is what it's going to cost us.
Yeah.
But we've never actually given a number. Say if you give us that amount, we'll come. We've never done that. No.
Yeah. So moving on that, unless you want to touch on any of that we're talking about.
We're here all night.
And to say this now, I will say this: if we were doing it for the money, we'd have quit a long time ago.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why we do it. We do it if one person gets saved in the 35 years we've sung, or 34 years we've sung so far, it's worth it all.
Well,
But
brother,
our side benefit is we love to do it. But if we only see one person saved in 34 years, we've seen more than that. I'm sure, I don't even know the amount. It was worth it all.
well, the night that I played with y'all, after I got done messing it up, y'all brought it back, and I remember a guy got saved in that service.
The altar, if I remember that night, it's Free Will Chapel. The altar was full that night, and I think there was a person that got saved that night.
A
Yes.
man and his wife got saved. I remember Spanky leaned over and he looked at the pastor and said, "Did they just get saved?" And he was like, Spanky said,
like Howard.
well,
Yeah, he does play like that, doesn't he?
he's
Howard Goodman right there.
So Miss Sue Lynn, I want to talk about your job. You used to be a guidance counselor.
I did. I retired in 2020, but I was the guidance counselor at Jacksonville High School.
Jacksonville High School.
I was the senior counselor.
How did that work? Because I'm kind of in a counseling role. So did you have to what would you, if somebody's wanting to get into guidance counselors, because I believe my daughter's been talking about doing that a little bit. What would you suggest? Like, what is something that they need to lean into and learn to be a guidance counselor?
Well, I would say to research what educational setting you want to go into, because private and Christian schools, they're governed a little bit differently than what the public schools are. For the public schools to be recognized as far as educationally, you have to have an undergrad degree, because counseling is considered a specialized master's. And you have, I would say, definitely look into some psychology classes at your local high school. Sometimes the kids can take AP, psych, and dual enrollment, they can take psychology through the community colleges. That'll kind of give you a thing to different theories that govern counseling, to kind of help you see where you're leaning toward as far as what theory. You have to be a good listener. I went from teaching to guidance counseling.
17 years as a kindergartner teacher. No, kindergarten, right?
My last 12, when I was in the classroom, was.
She deserves a medal for that.
When you're teaching, a lot of times you feel the silence because you are instructing, and then you let them engage and learn. When I became a counselor, I had to totally switch that role, because when you're a counselor, you have to be really good at listening and to be able to observe not just what they're saying to you verbally, but what they're saying to you through their body language, to really kind of see where they're coming at. And you have to really understand that the person that's sitting across from you, what I have found, there are times people that have sat across from me have had different faiths, have had different beliefs, and when you are in a setting, a non-Christian setting,
then, you know, how you counsel that person is very different than in a Christian setting or a Christian school setting. And I loved my job as a guidance counselor. Out of all of my educational experience that I gained, that truly was a mission field that I felt that God placed me at such a time as this. And I loved helping children from all walks, because that's what you're getting. You are getting children that come from broken homes, children that are coming from trauma, children that come from excellent homes, that want to go and go to college and do well. So you're getting a whole broad spectrum. So I would say definitely look into the psychology piece of it, and definitely practice your listening skills. You know,
Yeah, Christy, she's kind of on that path, but she does go to a Christian school. She prefers that because she has a huge testimony that a lot of people don't know about, but she loves mentoring to kids. She loves her job as a teacher, but her long term, I believe, is more of that route right there. But she goes to Liberty University for, I don't know what the end goal as far as the degree goes, but and she looks up to you. I've never told you that, but I know she does. She
well, I
loves you
think
to
the
death.
world of her.
And, that's I think the end goal for her as well is counseling. But yeah, it's so important, even more important in schools where the Christian faith ain't on the forefront. But I mean, I know there's certain, there's only so far you can go with that as far as a public school, but you can use the moral compass around being a Christian to lead these kids.
Right, absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
And I know you did great at that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
you know, I was going to say there were a lot of times if I have a student that was just broken, then the last thing I would say to them is, I'm putting you on my prayer list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm praying for you, you know. And then I had some children or some students that would say, can you pray with me before I leave?
Oh yeah.
And they initiated it, and I never deny ever anybody that wants to pray. I never deny that. That's one of the greatest gifts that you can give somebody is just that connection of prayer.
Well, with the role that I got as far as a chaplain at my job, I feel like the Lord had been grooming me through being a pastor to take the chaplain role, because it just popped up one day and asked me if I wanted to be it. And there's about 15,000 people that work with our company, and not every one of them are Christians.
Right.
And so what you were saying is exactly what, when I was in the ministry school, they said, when it comes to counseling, and you got to be a good listener. I like how you said you got to be able to listen to somebody, and hold on to what they're saying, because they might throw in a little detail there that just took like 1 second to say, but if you miss it, you're missing everything. And they told me when I was going to school for counseling, with pastoring work, they said, always wonder, what am I not hearing?
Right.
Like, or what are they not saying? You got to be able to put this stuff together. Like, there's some things when people want a counselor, they don't want to tell that. They don't want to just open up and tell somebody. So you got to be in your mind thinking, am I missing something? Like, they said this, then there's a chasm, and they said this. Is there something in the middle of that chasm? And always being on guard. And everybody works my company ain't a Christian. So when they call and want some help, sometimes they'll say, well, I don't necessarily want nothing from a Christian. I just want somebody to listen to. I've learned that some people just want you to listen.
That's right. And we as a generation, as a culture, we don't like silence because we have so much noise. So when we're talking to someone and there's this long stretch of silence, we want to feel it. And what we need to, as a counselor, what you have to learn to do is sit in the silence. You have to learn to do that, because you're right. They just want someone to listen. And sometimes it takes a while for the courage within them to come out, because you're building that trust. I've always said that if someone's sitting across from me, especially in that public setting like we were talking about, my job at that point in the confines of those four walls was to meet them where their trauma was.
Mhm.
It wasn't to say, well, you're doing this wrong, you need to do this. It's to meet them. If you go back and you look at the ministry of Jesus,
All right, here we go.
he met you where
you
your
were
trauma was, where you
Amen.
were at. And if you I went to a women's conference this past weekend, and I believe Sherry, my pastor's wife, she shared this during her speaking. When the woman was being accused, and the men are all around and they're shouting, stone her,
Mhm.
she, all of her sins. Jesus, what did he do?
He kneeled.
He was quiet.
Yeah.
He knelt and he wrote in the sand, and he never uttered a word except, where are your accusers?
Mhm.
Go and sin no more.
Mhm.
Jesus was an excellent, and I've always said this, a conversational witness.
Mhm.
It wasn't the browbeat. It wasn't,
This is why we wanted
holding and
Sue Lynn
shouting
on.
and picking the signs. He was a conversational witness. He came upon you very softly,
Mhm.
and then he started a conversation with you. And he always said what he needed to say,
Mhm.
but he always led them to where they were the talker,
Mhm.
whether it was through a soft question or whether it was him just softly speaking to them. And I think in the generation that we live in now, we need to model that. We have to be conversational witnesses. How's that working for you?
Yeah.
How can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at in your fields today?
Yes.
That's something that me and Mama have talked about before, and she's even said it in church before. It's something that today's church needs to be able to realize, that maybe the church of yesteryear didn't. Whenever it was hellfire and brimstone, you get out of here with those clothes, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
Across the board. I mean, they come into church. If you get them into the church, meet them where they're at,
Mhm.
and help them along. Especially a new Christian that's on the milk.
I think
You know
a
what I mean?
problem that people have sometimes, I believe this because I've learned this through me, is that all we know is right now we're a Christian and we're spiritually growing, but sometimes we forget what we grew through.
I actually had approach me, it's a church member at a church that came up, and when I was still in public school counseling, and said to me, I don't know how you can counsel those people and say you're a Christian. And that just broke my heart, because Jesus didn't say, how can I not go witness to them because they're this? He came to that.
Mm-hmm.
He came to them where their trauma was.
Mm-hmm.
And then he worked his way, to the rest of it. It's never been my job to change you. I can't change you. I meet you where you are, and I let God do the rest.
That's right.
Through the Holy Spirit, through the words I speak, through the actions that I do. Sometimes it's not always shouting Jesus in love. Sometimes it's softly showing Jesus' love through what you do for people.
Yep, if a person ain't never read a Bible about Jesus, they're reading you.
That's exactly
She's about
right.
to get cranked up.
I'm
What
very
was it?
passionate about
I'm
that.
glad.
The religious leaders went up to Jesus. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, but the religious leaders went up to Jesus, or Jesus' disciples, and said, why is y'all's rabbi sitting there with a bunch of sinners and publicans? They couldn't understand why Jesus would humble himself and go eat with sinners, and that's where he was at. And I think that he hit us with a line that said that he came for the people that's broken, the people that's sick.
Right.
And I think that's a picture of what we're supposed to be. So at church, I grew. I know what John Mark's talking about when somebody comes in. Everybody's always looking towards an older pastor to say, you need to go get another dress on. That's too short or something like that. But listen, you really don't know what they just walked out of.
That's right.
You don't know if that's all they got right now.
That's exactly
And you
right.
don't know if they're like, look, I want to give this church a try. I I'm missing something. There's a hole in my heart. And just as soon as they get in there, they got someone saying, you need to go change or something. I just don't. That's just greasy. And I know that Duck Dynasty, Alan Robertson, he said that he was at church and he's a pastor. And he said that they have been trying to get this group of boys to come to church forever. And he said they finally showed up, and one of them had a hat on. And he said his deacon came up to him and whispered in his ear before the sermon. He said, are you going to go tell him to take that hat off?
Oh my goodness.
Or am I? And Alan said he grabbed him like this and said, neither one of us is going to go say anything about his hat. Because he's like, he's in here. Let's put into that. But
Well, I'd rather see him in church with a hat on than see him out of church with a hat on.
Well,
That's right.
yeah, and Richard actually got into church through his best friend Frankie, who is now a pastor in Aden, through church softball. Because back then to play church softball, you had to attend church so many once a week. And that's actually how he got into church.
praise the Lord.
Church softball was a big deal back then.
Yes, it was, and he eventually he led me to the Lord. So if I had never started doing that, going to just to play softball. I mean, I'm telling you the truth, and I'm so thankful I did.
Hey.
So, have I been perfect since then? No.
No, none of us are.
But I know where I'm going with that.
Amen. Yeah. Oh, Kurt will come. He'll get up and tell a testimony. Just about every other Sunday, he'll give a testimony, and then when he's done, he'll say, "And I'm not perfect neither. I got a lot of problems, but God didn't call me to be perfect. I believe in Him. I know where I'm going." I love it when he does that. I love that because we're not ever going to hit a spot of perfectness.
That's right.
It's just not going to happen. There's too much stuff out there where our minds are going to go the wrong way at some point. Like you said, Richard gets angry. Where I get angry. And like you can be driving down the road and just be thinking, I am so godly today. And then somebody pulls out in front of you and you lose that godliness.
I don't know if I've ever done that.
Like, I've got it together today. I've done nothing wrong. And then you get a phone call. Hey, you're late on your bill or something like that. Oh, the godliness goes out the window for a little while.
Yeah, that little meme or meme, however you say it on Facebook, I love Jesus, but his people are getting on my nerves.
Yeah. Well, so when y'all got married, y'all started a gospel group called the Whitehurst Duet.
Well,
Right.
it was just a Whitehurst.
Just the Whitehurst, yeah.
So, but it was a duet, just you two.
We actually started singing together when we started dating, and we started doing mostly revivals. Back then, revivals were big, and we did a lot of revivals. That's basically how we started out. But we actually did our very first singing out to a church off of Highway 53. Mickey Cox's old church. I think it's Mickey Cox, Reverend Mickey Cox.
Is that the one with the copper-looking roof?
There's a few.
There's two churches on 53 that I'm there.
This is directly off 53 where right now there's a four-way stop sign there. There's a Scotchman there, like you're going to the old rock quarry.
Okay.
I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
But we did our first singing as a group. It was just two of us. Of course, we considered ourselves a group as the Whitehurst. And actually back then, she played the piano and we both sang. We did I think 10 or 11 songs.
I bet
So that was our very first official singing together. And we went from there to cassette tapes. We put all the songs on a cassette tape in a row and prayed that it didn't start dragging. So, and our first CD we actually wasn't a CD, we did a cassette tape, our very first one called The Whitehurst. Did I write all the songs on that first?
You did.
I sure did. And
Richard, you've wrote songs?
I've written a few, but our first project, so to speak, that's what we used to call it, project, was on a reel-to-reel. We did it on a reel-to-reel in a basement. And
One take.
sort of like a microphone like this, yes.
One take.
Yes. So a microphone like this, we stood on both sides and sang into it, and it was a reel-to-reel. That's how we did our very
That's
first one.
real music. That's getting it right the first time.
Yeah.
One of those big old reels, you know,
Yeah.
reel-to-reel.
I got you.
You didn't get to mess up. You got it.
There's no editing.
No.
So we've come a long way since then. So we've probably, I guess we've done probably 12, 13, 14 projects, 15 maybe, I'm not sure. But of course, the technology got a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
Just praise the Lord. I mean,
yeah.
it's made it really easy.
We sang as a duet probably, I guess, 3 or 4 years, and then we added a friend of ours at church to sing soprano tenor Inga MacArthur, and then a guy named Brent Moretti started singing bass,
Okay.
and we sang as the Whitehurst for about 10 years altogether.
Okay. And then then you had to go raise a baby, right?
Well, my daughter was entering middle school, and I felt at that time that those were very crucial years that she would need me. You know, I think sometimes I heard one of my friends who lost her son when he was a freshman in high school, and she said that we think we need to stay with them when they're younger and then go back to work.
Mhm.
And she said you almost need to stay with them through their older years. And that just really stuck with me, and I really felt like I needed to be home to help her with that transition. And so I approached Rich and wasn't sure how he was going to take it, you know, because he does love to sing, and I was like, I really feel like this is what God is leading me to do, to be home with Landon. And he said okay, and that's when he made the male quartet, and I stayed home for those 3 years. And then when she got into high school, that's when we kind of went back to.
Yeah, we actually had Inga left us, and we had a girl named Laura Roy at the time singing with us. She'd been with us a couple of years, and she decided to take some time off, and our dates were really picking up. When we started out, you'd be lucky to get 1 date a month, but the dates really started picking up, and so I started a group called the Liberty Boys Quartet. Myself, let's see, Brent Moretti still sang bass. Philip Marley, and a guy named Jason Sims out of Greenville. And we sang, and then Brent stayed with us about a year, and then Derek Barbie started singing with us about another year and a half.
Derek sung with y'all?
Yeah, for about a year and a half. But I was with, we sang about 2.5, 3 years, I'm sure. And anyway, I started a group called the King's Grace. Well, this is King's Grace. My daughter actually came up with that name, King's Grace. And it was funny, we called Dolan, Lawrence Glisson, a good friend of ours, recommended a guy I went to church with him named Dolan. And I thought, Dolan, that's kind of a weird name.
Still is.
But I'll tell you one thing, the boy sure could sing.
Yes, he's got a beautiful voice.
And so his first time, he didn't know it was an audition. But I'll tell you what, it gelled from the get-go.
Yeah.
And for 22 years, the Lord really blessed us. And we stayed pretty busy. I mean, before COVID, we were doing 40, 45, maybe 50 dates a year. Another thing about the Liberty Boys is we were doing a tremendous amount. We were doing 85 dates a year.
That was a professional group.
Yes, and that was 80 to 85 dates a year. And that was a lot. Our first year, our tenor singer was our booking guy. He did all the booking, and he was really good at it.
He's good at booking, or
Good at book. He could do both. He could sing, and he was very good at booking churches.
That's pro level dates though.
But I was still working 40 hours a week, and it was really strenuous. And there were some other circumstances that was involved, but the Lord blessed that group, and they carried on another 3 years probably after I left the group, and a guy named Clay took over after me. But King's Grace for 22 years, we were just, and it was weird because we kept the same nucleus. You don't hear it that often, that members stay together for 22 years.
Yeah.
And of course, Bam Bam and Spanky and Lawrence, I guess probably we were 5 years into King's Grace, maybe.
2010, 2009, I can't remember, somewhere in there.
And Spanky came on board with us because Spanky actually. Let me go back a little bit. When we were at Whitehurst, Spanky.
I seen a picture with Spanky up.
Right.
He was that big around.
Yeah. He actually played with us for about a year and a half, playing the piano. When it was a duet. And so I forgot about that. I forgot to mention that. But his daughter was growing up, and he was a soccer coach, and he was having to miss a lot of stuff. So, where was I at? Anyway, we added Spanky playing the piano after about 5 years with King's Grace, and then Lawrence Glisson started playing bass with Spanky. So it was us three, me, Sue Lynn, and Dolan, and Spanky and Bam Bam. And then Lawrence came off the road. His wife Brenda was getting sick, and he had to look after her.
Well,
And,
John Mark was our player too.
well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So
He's weaving.
yeah, and I understood John. I understood Lawrence. You know, his family, the Glissons, sang for years.
Another great group.
Another great group.
Excellent.
Yes,
Excellent group.
Brenda, Kelly, and Lawrence Glisson, great ministers of the gospel for many. Since Kelly was probably 4 years old, I guess. I don't know how old she was, and they sang probably 30 plus years at least, I would say. But anyway, when they retired, Lawrence came on board with us playing bass for a while, and then we actually put a band together. Probably I don't know how many years after we had a piano and bass player. John Mark came on board. Of course, the regular Bam Bam and Spanky was there, and we had a little drummer boy. We call him a little drummer boy because he was like, what was he, like 12 years old?
He's that big around.
I saw pictures. I've seen pictures of him.
But you know, he did the job that we was at. John Mark played drums for a while.
I played drums first.
Yeah.
And then moved over so I could play other stuff.
Banjo and guitar.
hmm
And Jordan Stallings, that's his name.
Yeah, Jordan.
And he was probably about 12, 13 years old, every bit of it. And he did an outstanding job.
Yep.
And we had Lawrence and John Mark and Jordan and Spanky and Bam Bam, probably for about 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, I'm partial to those years. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I know you played with him, but I didn't know you played with him for 3 years.
We were there for a while.
Yeah, they were good too. Now it did take us an extra hour setting up every time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we ate a lot.
Well, homecomings, we
There's
actually
nothing that hurts you.
we did yeah. If there's just like 3 deviled eggs left, and John Mark's in front of you, you're only gonna get one of them.
You only get one of them.
I will say, I don't know where he puts it.
Homecomings were a bad time whenever
That's
I was
still
around.
hard for you.
Well,
And then he's like,
needed
oh, I got
he
stuff.
needed a plate with sides on it.
Well, that was before he was a married man, so he was just a little teeny tiny. You know, he wasn't no bigger than a minute too. He's just tall. You know.
Yeah.
Then Christy started hanging out with us. She'd come around and be like, I better not eat that much. No.
But yeah, they were. I mean, our band sounded good. They did a really good job.
There's a video on YouTube. What church were y'all at?
Rosewood Church of God.
Rosewood Church of God.
There's several videos from Rosewood Church of God with the
Yeah.
band playing. One of them's just them. Yeah, they did an outstanding job. And I guess I guess 3 or 4 years. I'm not exactly sure how many years they was with us. And then once they left, I think Lawrence had to leave us. Like I said, he had to take care of his wife, which we understood that you know, your family's first. And this is just, we've always put our families first.
Yeah.
You know? Now, in saying that, we've missed a lot of stuff because of traveling, maybe birthdays and stuff. And John Mark traveled full-time professionally for a while, so he knows all about missing stuff.
Yeah.
And it can make you kind of sad a little bit that you have to do it, but you know, but the Lord's blessed us overall.
Amen.
So and
I don't feel like you're called. I don't think everybody's called to be home all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I was in line work forever, and I still am. I'm a chaplain doing it, but I'm not home all the time. That's just a part of doing line work. You know,
yeah.
I've missed birthdays and stuff like that, but that makes it when I get home, I want it so much more.
Well, I will say traveling as a homebody is tough. If you're a homebody at heart, traveling's tough.
And I think when both parents travel,
That's tough.
that and you know, we didn't homeschool,
Yeah.
and you know that weekends, could you feel.
Well, we were very, very blessed because, like I said, we
Have
both
great
we both
parents.
traveled,
Yeah.
and we had her mom and dad, my mom and dad, a lot of weekends that we'd have to leave our daughter with them, like a Sunday, especially Sundays. We did mostly Sundays. We did a lot of Saturdays, but mostly Sundays. And we were blessed that we always have somebody we depended on and trust to watch our daughter.
Mm.
And so we were very fortunate there.
During y'all's anniversary, I think I got this right, didn't you? You picked your grandboy up and you were holding him while you were singing at one point.
Well, I wish I had. He actually came down there and stood up at the stage. There's a great picture my sister-in-law took.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and he stood up at the stage, and I leaned down toward him and held his hand.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have picked him up. That would have been great. But I'm getting old, and doing
Yeah.
that stuff's a lot harder when
It happens.
I know Daddy. Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, this equipment, the speakers only weighed 20 pounds when we started out. Now they feel like they weigh 80 pounds.
Hey, that was the Perkins
Well-
fan. We were doing that work back then.
But let me just throw a gentle nudge out there, Richard, if I may. I wanted to help you the other night, but you're like, no, don't.
Well,
don't,
the
don't.
carrying part, I don't mind helping the carrying part, but we've had people volunteer to come up and they start unplugging everything.
Well,
Yeah.
And when it comes to setting up the next time, if everything's unplugged, you gotta remember because there's a lot of things we leave plugged in all the time.
That's a form and fashion today.
So we make sure we don't mind them helping carry them. When we enjoy people helping us carry stuff, but when it comes to setting up and breaking down,
Yeah, I
it's
get
better that we do it because we know what we're doing.
That's right.
I was like, man, what do you want me to grab? Just chill for a minute. That's pretty much what he said. Just hang out. But
I had Daddy tell me what he wanted plugged in.
so outside of y'all's group, like outside of your music and your ministry, who is somebody y'all look up to? Who's one of y'all's favorite singers? You know, Mr. Lynn and Richard. Who's somebody that you were like, oh my? Because mine is pretty shocking. I liked Elvis when he was singing gospel music. And that's different for a lot of people.
Look,
I mean,
I grew up on Elvis Presley. I was probably the biggest. When he passed away in 1977, I was sitting at the dinner table and I cried. I'm not gonna lie with you. I was 12 years old because I loved Elvis Presley, and
There you
not
go.
just his gospel, but I liked his music.
yeah.
Now his lifestyle probably wasn't what I'm sure wasn't what it should have been. That don't mean you don't like somebody's music.
That's right.
I mean, but I have to tell you, my favorite all-time singer, and unfortunately he just passed away, was Donnie Avery.
Donnie Avery, all the way.
He was my favorite singer ever. He was a really good friend of mine. But as far as singing goes, there was nobody better
That
around
tenor,
here. I
he
mean,
had a beautiful tenor.
Now, you were able to sing with him.
Yeah, me and Donnie were good buddies. Him and his wife, Julie.
yeah.
And I always told Donnie, I was like, you're the best around here, brother.
He is.
And he is. As far as tenor singing, he was the standard around
He sang
here.
at our wedding 34 years ago.
Mm.
He used to pick me up when me and my brother were little. Ramsey Loop was dirt. And he picked us up in the church van for Bethlehem Baptist Church. But yeah, he was the standard as far as singers go around also.
And I was glad that they came. He came when the Four Christ came to our church.
That's what I was
Just
talking
been
about.
months ago
Yeah.
now, but
Well, was it Donnie with them?
he came. Him and Julie came, and he got on stage with
Yeah.
us,
We
and
all
I got to sing with Donnie one last time,
Yeah.
and I was so grateful for that because
He
that would
looked
be the
happy,
last time
Richard.
I
He
ever
looked
laid
happy
eyes
to be
on
there.
him.
Well, they actually, that night they were with y'all. My mother had just passed away.
That's right.
That's
'cause
right.
Y'all were supposed to be there that
We were
night.
supposed to be there that night, and we called. I told Mark, I said, Mark, we had to reschedule 2 days. And I said, Mark, we can't go nowhere this weekend. Can you call? So I don't know if I told him to call For in Christ or not. But I said, we need to find somebody to take our spot. And For in Christ was so gracious to fill in for us. And
It ended up being great.
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
sure,
it
look,
was.
I'm sure anything they're involved with is going to be good. And it's really a blessing. I wasn't there, but I know y'all were blessed that Donnie was there.
But it went like it
Holy
went
Spirit
beyond
got-
like a regular For in Christ service. I
The
mean,
Holy Spirit got involved.
I mean, we're there. We were in the aisles. I mean,
Well, we've did a lot of dates with For in Christ, especially the last 10 years probably. And I actually, when they were looking for a lead singer, Dolan actually filled in for him for probably, I guess, a year. He was singing with us and the For in Christ for about a year and a half probably.
Buddy had to leave. Yeah.
When Buddy Sasser had to retire, that's correct. And I filled in when Dolan couldn't make it for a couple of dates. I traveled with him to Virginia, I think, one time, and a couple of times. I think a couple of dates. And I got to sing with Donnie, and that was a blessing right there.
Top tier.
Yeah. So yeah, talking about blessing your heart, just to stand by your gospel singing hero, so to speak.
His wife used to work at the Sunco at the mall.
I remember that. Yeah.
And like, I would go to Sunco because I got a little geek in me. You know, I love this Bible, and I will preach it and I will study it and I'll be all about it. But I like Star Wars, and I you know, there's some stuff at the Suncoast. They got Star Wars stuff, comics and stuff like that. And for Christmas, I'd always buy my mother-in-law some Walking Dead toy action figures. Because I don't know how it started, but and she told me being when we started this podcast, she's gonna let me put them up over here. I bought her a action figure from Walking Dead every year for Christmas, and she'd tickle her. So I'd go to the Suncoast and get them. And I remember the first time his wife came up to me, she said, "Shane, when you know me?" And I was like, and then she got home and I was like, "Oh yeah." So it was a tradition for me and her to get together at Christmas time, at least once at the Suncoast. She would help me pick out the toy.
She is a sweet lady.
And she knew exactly what I was there for, and like I was thinking, you don't look like you fit here, but she loved it. She loved being over there.
Another thing about Donnie is that last time I got to see him, we had actually started talking about he wanted to learn how to play banjo, and he said, "I'm gonna get up with you. I'm gonna get a banjo and we're gonna get together," and that was the plan. But I won't see him again until we meet up there. But,
Brother, he's probably a better banjo player than you now.
right now.
So who's your favorite?
Oh my goodness, I have two, I think, but it's more probably their character as well as their talent. My favorite local singer would have to be Brenda Glisson.
Okay.
Her alto is beautiful. She never liked to do leads. She always enjoyed the harmony. But if you could have ever heard her sing "God Walks the Dark Hills," oh my goodness, her alto is beautiful. And I guess I would have to say, gosh, I like all genres, but I was really impressed with Karen Peck. When we had our first concert, we didn't really.
Well, major of, well, I ain't gonna say the word major, but gospel scene we put on. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Karen Peck, was that one of y'all's
We
gospel?
we invited her. We
booked
booked her to sing,
Amen.
and we didn't. We were starting out. We were young, and we had rented the Kenansville Auditorium, right?
No, it was East Duplin Auditorium.
East Duplin Auditorium, and it's a big auditorium.
It's big.
It's big,
Yeah.
and we had advertised, but no one really
It's
knew.
before social media now.
Right, before social media.
Advertising was a lot different.
It was the radio, it was the radio. And, I think maybe, I can't even tell you.
Well,
maybe
it probably
about-
seats 800, and we probably had 100, 150 people.
Which if we had done it in a church, it would have been full. But and so she, when she got there, she was so gracious. And she told the people that showed up, if you go to King's Grace's table,
And we're the Whitehurst in.
oh, that's right, sorry, get my groups mixed up. If you go to the Whitehurst table and buy one of their CDs, you can come to my table and I'll give you a free one.
Amen.
And then at the end of her set, which her soprano voice is beautiful, but at the end of her set, she had prayer time, and anyone that wanted prayer, they could come up to the stage, and she prayed with them one at a time.
There was a line at the end,
And there was
too.
a line.
Karen Peck?
Yes. I've never forgotten it. She probably doesn't remember me, but I will always remember her, because not many, especially that travel like she travels, would have taken the time for just a new couple starting out like that.
Yeah.
Tremendous character. Tremendous character.
I never heard that story.
Yeah. Well, we had seen the McCameys there probably
Now that was a show.
probably a year prior, and it was our first event. I didn't know how to put on sings, and I said, "Well, we use the same place." Well, I think the Lord still blessed even though we had 150 people.
Amen.
And I
Because
actually,
we learned, but not just that, people were blessed that night. I think so.
we actually were able to go to Kentucky to the National Quartet Convention, and Karen had her table set up, and I actually got the chance to see her, and this has probably been, goodness, maybe 15, 20 years after that date. And I walked over and I said, "I know you don't remember me." I said, "But let me tell you why I remember you."
Yeah.
And because it was just, and I share that story with anybody that'll listen, because that just spoke volumes to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just spoke volumes.
Have y'all ever been? I know this might be a dumb question. We can edit it. I mean, have y'all ever been to like a Gaithers, the Gaithers thing?
We've actually sung.
I know y'all have
Oh,
because Marcus showed me pictures, but I didn't know if I had it wrong in my mind or
Well,
not.
we recorded with a gentleman named Wesley Pritchard, and he's heavily involved with Bill Gaither. Matter of fact, you see any Bill Gaither video,
Heavily.
you see any video that he's put on, Wesley's there. And very smart. He's a genius when it comes to music. Great bass guitarist, matter of fact. He's played on a lot of our recordings. Matter of fact, all of them, I believe. But anyway, Wesley brought in Bill. Wesley is the pastor of Fayetteville Community Church. And I guess Wesley had a couple of sing-alongs, and he's recorded many groups around Eastern North Carolina. Mill West Studios, and Wesley's the engineer there. And I mean, groups like Foreign Christ, their Rural Descendants, you name them. Any group around Eastern North Carolina is recorded there. But he used to have something called a sing-along, and he had 2 or 3 of them, and we were always invited because we've done probably 10 projects with Wesley, at least 10. And but anyway, he brought in Bill Gaither one year. He booked Bill Gaither because him and Bill they're good friends. But to get Bill Gaither somewhere, it's kind of difficult sometimes because he's so busy.
Yeah.
So actually, his wife Gloria was there also, and the Nealons were there. Mark Lowry was there. Who am I missing? John and
I
Mark.
forgot about the Nealons being there.
Gene McDonald was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the sisters group, one of the Roots, she was there.
She was.
And then of course all of us groups around Eastern North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the auditorium was packed. It was pretty packed to the rim, wasn't it, John Mark?
It was. It was a packed house.
So we got in our places and we did basically Bill Gaither type thing. Normally Wesley was the MC, but Bill and Wesley sort of did it together, but Bill had done most of it. If Bill's there, he's going to be the MC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Everything I've ever seen.
So, and it was great. I mean, it was a packed house. And I was a little nervous, to be quite honest with you. And I mean, there was probably 1,000 people there, and that's a lot of people for a lot of the things we do.
Y'all just throw it down, though.
Well, we did a lot of, he told us at the beginning that not every group might not, he said, be prepared. Not every group might not be able to sing. And,
And he assigned you the song, so he sent you the
Oh,
song.
he said-
he sent it to you.
oh yeah, he said what song you're singing. Wesley
Okay.
did. He goes, learn this song. He goes, you might not sing it, but you may sing it, so be ready. So I was part of a men's ensemble that sang up there. But it was about to wind down pretty much. And Wesley looks up toward me, because we're sitting up there, and he goes, for the last song.
The last
song.
the curtain call.
And we're walking down there. He goes, "Look, man, we saved the best for last." I don't know if he was being nice or what, but
He meant it.
But we stood down there, and Bill's standing right beside me, and we sang, and it was just amazing. I can't even remember. I was so nervous, but I think we did a good job.
I was out in the audience. I think it went well.
Yeah.
The band was there. We
The
weren't
band
on
didn't
stage.
get called on?
No, we were.
Yeah, the band. There's only somebody play. It's all singers up there, except for
The
some
ones
of
that
the.
record with
Yeah.
Wesley. were
Yeah,
the
like Milton
choir.
Smith was
Yeah.
back there playing piano, and Jeremy Midkiff was back there playing guitar and stuff. But they were sort of hid back underneath the stage.
Mm-hmm.
But he called us last, and we're the last group to sing. I had to be honest with you, I thought, well, I guess we're not going to be able to sing, because not every group got to sing. So Bill sort of he ran it, and the time frame was his time frame. By the way, he loved the Collisons. Remember, he got the Collisons came out, and they did. I think they might have. Did they do 2 songs or 1 song? I'm not sure.
It's been so long.
But they were young girls then.
Yeah.
And he was really impressed that they could sing the harmony and everything they did, because they weren't just get up there and let her fly singers. They were, you got a lead singer, you got a harmony singer, you got another harmony singer. They were singing parts, which was amazing at their age. But
I think I just asked him about the Collisons. That who I was talking about?
Nope. But we'll get to
Okay,
that.
all right.
but we were the last group to sing, and it was wonderful. It was a once in a lifetime thing.
Mm-hmm. But you were talking about the Nealons. The Nealons are the ones that
Yeah,
we lost not too long
and
ago.
they were
Yes.
going to a Gaither singing, weren't they?
Yeah, they actually sang "Excuse Me, Are You Jesus" that night. Remember that song we did, "Excuse Me, Are You Jesus"?
Yes.
They sang that song that night. I think they sang several songs, but that was one of them.
That's heartbreaking.
It was.
Yes.
They were one of my favorite groups. I love the music. I just loved everything about them.
Well, I heard after that happened, and we can get into that too. But like after that happened, I heard Bill Gaither, Miss Gloria Gaither. I heard her put a testimony in there, and like, you know, everybody was down in the dumps, and she said, "Listen, it's tore everybody up." She said, "But I can see them singing right now."
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it was sad.
It was, but they did a wonderful job, and Mark Lowry was a nice guy. When we got done, we sort of backed up. We stayed on stage the whole time at the very end. And Mark Lowry just leaned over, shook my hand, and said, "Man, y'all did great." He was a super guy, really nice guy. So,
And he puts on a great show himself, by himself.
yeah,
And he was at the Women of Joy conference, I think a year or two ago down in Myrtle Beach that Christy goes to. And she said it was one of the best things she's ever seen between comedy and singing.
He's revving back up. I
And
mean, I see a lot of his
he
stuff.
does not look like a singer, but let me tell you something.
He can.
He can flat out sing.
What was that song? He was being funny, but it was where he would say, "Ice cream." Like they were saying something about give the donkey some water.
Oh, that's on one of them live shows.
Yeah,
Water.
water. and the guy was, I think Gaither's like, "No, all I want you to do is say water." And he says it like 4 times. He's like, "Water."
And Bill would, he'd have his eyes closed and he'd get up and say, "Water."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there at the end he said, "Ice cream." He said, "You know that ain't what you're supposed to be
Yeah.
singing."
Your eyes on Bill.
Yeah.
Well,